Corrie, when you were on the school board, what kinds of issues were the hot and heavy issues of the day?
Well, over the years, there were several. I think the hardest time was when their money was tight and the budget was going to be defeated and the teachers were going to strike. And it was a very difficult time for me because I had friends that were teachers, and yet they felt that they should be part of their union. And I know probably the hardest thing is that I was the negotiator for the board, and it was a very hard role. I worked with that. I started alone, but then when the teachers got a professional, Don Schneider went with me, and so then he came. But I think the worst experience I had was, of course, when there was a lot of controversy over Dr. Kellermeyer, and that was a very hard time for me. And we were going to go to negotiations, and the times were very difficult. And I remember walking in, and Don Schneider called me, and he said, "I think you ought to wait for me." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because everybody's going to be lined up on the all around there." And I said, "Well, I think I'll be okay." So I walked in, and all the teachers, and a lot of them were my friends, were all lined up along the wall like this, and just stared, and I had to walk the gauntlet. Well, when you're going to negotiations, you've got all these notebooks, and I remember thinking, don't drop your papers, because I had all these papers. And so I had, I think the hardest part was for my friends as well as myself, is that you were on opposite sides of the table, and I had some very unfortunate experiences in that there was a very difficult election, and one of the senior girls pushed me down the steps, and then I had somebody almost hit me and push the door in my face, and things like that you don't think are going to happen to you. And but those are minor, because I found out that my friends who I met through the School Board Association had terribly difficult times, and that the one woman who at that time, when I was sort of suffering, she said, "Well, don't feel bad. They follow me every day and run me off the road, and I finally haven't been able to even drive to work. I had to park my car and walk because I can't get out. As soon as I get out of my driveway, I'm run off the road." So I thought that my little thing wasn't really that bad. But I loved the work. I loved the board work, and I've always been interested in education. That was, my background. And I always loved to study. It's one of those things that I've always loved to do. I love books. I love to study. And so for me, it was an I had a very good 15 years, except the end was tough. And but you forget it after you you leave. But at the time, I really enjoyed it, and I felt like I had a lot to contribute. And I always had the kids first. They were first in my mind. And we had a lot of good things that we started. I know the best thing that I can remember that was new in the whole state was we were one of the first schools in the country to really concentrate on learning disabilities. And that was way back in the late 50s, early 60s, when nobody even knew what it was. And then we also started the preschool in our Penn Yan Central School, which we were one of the pioneers, and we were picked to see if we would do it. And then you were, of course, under very stringent rules. You had to have, a nurse and a psychiatrist and so forth. And we had to handpick the people. And we were very fortunate to have a wonderful person in town, Millie Bloomquist, who knew all the people and knew all the background of the poverty pockets and the illiterates, and she handpicked that first group. And she said that she would make it a point to know every single family, and she would call on them. She was just absolutely fantastic. And so those things are wonderful things that happen, and that's still going, which is real nice. The disappointment, one of the disappointments we started was, and Marcia was involved with that, was language in the elementary school. And when the budget cuts came, we had to take that and that out, and that was a disappointment. One of the things I still had wanted to do and I never did get to do was I had come from a wonderful school district in Ossining, New York, and the teachers were just so very, very special. And they did a lot for the gifted and a lot for the people who wanted to do study after school type of thing. And so we had not only a leaders club, which and I was president the last year, where you organized the school because we had a lot of blacks and we had a lot of problems. And then they had a honors English which met after school, and they took you to New York, and you got to see the plays, and then you would review the plays, and then we had a language club that did a lot of, we cooked suppers, and we went into the city, and we went and we saw different things. And so that I had hoped to be able to start, especially the English one, and I never got that done. And then one of the other ones that I had hoped to do was we had a wonderful speech, which was a debating society. And I just felt that was such a wonderful background for me, and I had hoped that the school would do that. And I could never get that going because it was such a wonderful background. You had your negative and your positive on the issues, and then you would debate the town next door, and then you would go to the state and you would debate there. And so it was wonderful training because you were assigned a topic, and then you studied it, and then you debated it with people all over the state. And I always felt that was such a wonderful background for me to learn to speak on your feet and to really concentrate when somebody was coming at you with an argument. And but I could never do that. So I felt disappointed that some of the things that I had really believed in I couldn't, and there still aren't there either, that I couldn't get in our system because I felt that I felt that they were important.